What I thought I would run through in this session is just a little bit about the Bike Worcester story in terms of like how we set up the bike buses, and a few thoughts on why it is the shape it is, and I think quite a successful bike bus programme. I think it's fair to say. So going back to the origins, this was the first bike bus that ran in Worcester. My wife and I saw the Shorelands bike bus on Twitter, X as it is now, but it was Twitter then, and we were having a horrendous school run and decided that looked like a really fun thing to do. We shared, my eldest son was in reception at the time, and we shared a message on our reception WhatsApp group and said, does anybody fancy cycling to school together as a group? And the 3 other families said, yeah, that sounds amazing, and so we started a bike bus. This is now an existing route for us in the city. It's only about 800 metres from the school, so it was really, really close to school, and there was no on-road riding. It was almost completely segregated path to school, but because it was the first one that we'd ever done, and at the time there was some really good guidance from, I think, Cycling Scotland about bike buses in Kidderminster, but there wasn't really a bike bus guide at that moment in time, so we wanted to kind of take it easy. And that's what it turned into. This is the same school, some of the same children, and that was maybe a year later from that moment, and that kind of that's what we've seen a lot in the way that we've run the Worcester bike buses. We now have I think it's 15 buses in Worcester, to 11 different schools. We've supported buses in the rural areas around and the city, and across the border into other counties as well. And there is at least one bike bus every day in the city, supported by Bike Worcester volunteers. Which when I took this photo, I wasn't part of Bike Worcester. It existed as a group, but they quickly lassoed me into campaigning with them. So that and that's where it all started. And it really underpins the model that we have in Worcester. This picture is really, we probably got one of these for each of the routes that we've got, because our model is, in terms of starting a bike bus, is finding a parent or a family that wants to cycle to school, and building the routes around them, and that's the kind of practice. Catherine, do you want to talk anything about Shoreland starting? Because it's a similar story, wasn't it?
So we started 3.5 years ago. We're in the south side of Glasgow. It's a very, very busy urban area, lots of traffic, and our walk to school was just impossible. We just take our kids on the pavements because there's lots of shops and busy things happening. So we actually were inspired by Barcelona, and it was when COP was in Glasgow, and we decided, Barcelona said they started with 5 families, and we thought, well, we were 5 families wanting to take our kids to school bikes, why don't we try it? And so we did, and a few of us got sort of sheds and hadn't been cycling for a while. I had my little one on my back on the seat that I never used before, and the route we planned was going the back streets because we were scared to go in the front, the busy roads, and that first one, it just set something off, and it was really fun. It was really joyful. It felt quite rebellious doing it, and it just snowballed from there. And we've been doing it every Friday for 3.5 years. We're now Fridays and Mondays as well, so we sort of responded. People wanted to do it more, and we now do the return leg home on Friday and Monday as well. And we've also tried to support other bike buses in Glasgow. Currently there's only one other one, which I support and try to help, but what's interesting to me is lots of schools and cities and countries all have different challenges, and so even this school that's near us in Glasgow has completely different challenges in terms of what the families' lives are like, how they can access bikes, cycling, all of that. So our bike bus in Shorelands is really successful and big, but I'm also sort of tapped into what it's like for other schools who find it hard. I'm really inspired by Bike Worcester, and I was on the bike bus this morning, which is really cool, because bike buses don't have to be a big massive thing with like hundreds of kids. It can just be a little group of families getting kids to school. So
Yeah, it's really interesting. So we, talking to others from other places in the UK, but also from around the world, like does bike buses reflect the cities and the communities that they're in, and like we've chosen a particular approach, which is not necessarily to try. We have tried, but but not necessarily putting in loads of effort to make really big bike buses, but focusing on making sure there's provision across the city. So we really prioritise like making sure that a school has at least one. That's been a real focus for us. I'm guessing that everybody knows what a bike bus is. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, this is some of the slides I put together to run through with new parents, or if we get asked to do presentations at schools. A lot of this material comes from that. And one thing, again, in terms of like spread, UK, people from the UK, a couple in here, yeah, and then international, handful as well. But although they're international, also pros, so I don't need to tell them what bike bus is. One of the things that we do, and I think this is similar to Shorelands, in fact I'm sure it is that we, Bike Worcester is not responsible. We don't organise any bike buses. We will support parents to organise their own bike buses and provide them with materials and with volunteers. But as an entity and as an organisation, it's important to us that they're parent-led and they're being supported by Bike Worcester volunteers. For two real key reasons. One is you don't need insurance to cycle your children to school. That's not a thing that exists in the UK. Like when I started cycling with my children, I didn't need to take out a new insurance policy in order to be insured and to ride with them. So that's one really good reason. Whereas obviously with a cycling group, you probably would need insurance to run a led ride. So we're really keen to kind of we draw that distinction. The second reason, and probably the more impactful reason, and again, kind of drawing inspiration from Shorelands for a big time, is rather than us as a group of advocates in the city doing something to a community, we're doing it with them, and we've had buses where the main lead has been slightly separated from the school. They might be a local councillor or they might be a community volunteer, but they're not a parent at the school. And it's really interesting how being on the outside of the school community, it's really difficult to get traction within a school community if you're not a parent or a grandparent or something like that. So all of our bike buses that exist now, they're all over a year old, and they've all been set up by somebody who is part of that school community. Not necessarily influential, but they are a parent at the school, and it does make it feel different. It's a thing for the community rather than something that is being delivered by Worcester. You think agree, Katherine?
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, it can be hard. It's hard even getting your kids out the door in the morning and mind doing it on a bike. I think it's interesting to learn from others.
Yeah.
How to keep the energy up, because if we want kids, there does to be parent-led challenges, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah.
But we definitely see ones that where there's teachers and council involved. It's a whole different thing.
This is some material that I'll often share with parents or schools about the benefits of bike bus. Again, probably preaching a little bit to the converted, but everybody here knows that cycling is this miracle pill. It's a solution to everything, and bike bus is even better than that because it addresses children and addresses a huge number of potential issues in health and society, and they're absolutely brilliant things to do. I don't like by far the best thing I've ever done.
Oh yeah.
For sure. They are absolutely amazing.
And anecdotally, for us anyway at Shorelands Primary School, the teachers say to us that the bike bus kids arrive ready to learn. They've kind of burnt off some energy on the ride to school, and then sit down and focus when they get there. And they're
you've ever done, I'm sure you've done some stuff similar where we ever do vox pops or ask parents what they think or kind of how to describe the bike bus, and it's like, it's almost hilarious. 9 out of 10 will say community. Like that's you know probably the biggest benefit of bike bus is we've created a really resilient community, and there are huge benefits to that. You know, a plethora.
And it's
Sorry,
really
can I
fun.
just interrupt? You've got people on scooters there.
Yes.
So what's your sort of attitude to scooters or things like that?
And it very much, for us, it depends on the bike bus. It just depends on the route. And for this route, it doesn't run anymore. We changed it slightly. And the traffic was such that a child on a scooter could keep up with the group. And the surface of the road was such that it wasn't tricky for them. And that isn't true for all of the buses. And the only problem we have with scooters is they're quite slow. So yeah, that's our policy. We will encourage people to join with balance bikes over scooters if we can, because they're a lot, you know. If you get a 3-year-old on a balance bike, they can be pretty quick. So scooters. We don't say no to scooters, really ever, apart from on one route where we go on a gravel path through one of our parks, and it's really grim. So it's really, especially if you've got like one of the 3-wheel scooters, which have got like rubber wheels, they're just so slow. Nobody is having a fun time, not least the child who's getting left behind by all their mates on bikes. So yeah, interestingly enough, scooters are not covered by whatever the Road Act is. So like that, we've had discussions with people from our highways team about whether or not scooters are illegal. To which we say, would you like us to leave those children on the pavement? So yeah, they're much safer with us than they are anywhere else. Okay.
Sorry, actually in that photograph there's somebody running, I think, isn't
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we're not picky about modes of transport. Yeah, for sure. And like yeah.
It's
so you
power in
don't-
numbers, really. In Barcelona, when we were there,
Yeah.
there was kids rollerblading to school. There was
Yeah.
a parent rollerblading, pushing a buggy.
It was amazing,
There
that.
was scooters. There was running alongside kids. It's like just getting to school actively in a big number of people.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, and we even, you know, we get plenty of parents who will run, you know, or jog, for, you know, whether it's because they don't have access to a bike or they have slightly more control over their small person on foot than on bike. Yeah, it's yeah.
But it is like at Shawlands, you know, my job now is in cycling. I work for a women's cycling organisation in Glasgow, and which has actually come from the bike bus, by the way, changed my career and I'm now working in it, which is mad. That's a whole other thing. But if you can tap into, because we've had kids on scooters, but actually being able to sort of see how can we support them to get cycling, I think it is good to get everyone, to get people using bikes
Yeah.
if they can, obviously supporting whatever others need to do. But if there's a way that we can get maybe the kid on the scooter, why do they not want to go on a bike? Why do they not have a bike? What support is there out there to get them?
Yeah, and I mean, again, another benefit of that is that we will see children go through that progression. So they might go scooter to balance bike, and then balance bike to pedal bike, and they have a community there to celebrate that achievement. So, you know, and also a motivation to get there. You know, there's loads of children in the schools that we work with who want to learn to ride because it means they can join the bike bus. So yeah, it's really, really powerful. And as you've seen from, we get bike donations, so that's another thing. Like Barris right here. I'll come back to that. Talk about safety on the road, useful. Again, this is guidance that we give to parents and if we're setting up a bike bus. So try and reduce the speed of traffic as much as possible. That's like if you're coming on a bike bus tomorrow, you'll kind of see the types of roads that we tend to ride on. Probably similar to Shawlands, not similar to the Barcelona buses. A mixture of quiet suburban roads, and then some of the buses either join or cross some of the more major arterial roads in the city. And and we have different tactics that we use, and this is Bible to volunteers, but also parents as well. We have a formation, which you might have seen in this picture, which is pretty typical, I think, for bike buses. Children on the left, or children and vulnerable adults on the left, and then adults or more experienced riders on the right-hand side, to kind of create this mobile bike lane. And then we also have a formation with normally 2 lead riders that can then take turns to block junctions, and then at least 1 rear rider to bring up the rear to make sure that we're not leaving that behind. So that's the formation. We also have a structure, and I think Shaughter's is similar, where at the beginning of a route, the lead parent will assign road positions for junctions. So on each bike bus there might be 2 or 3 major junctions where there are set positions for people to stand to prevent traffic from crossing the bus. And then at the start of each bus, the lead parent will just check that they've got the people that they need, and that they are aware of where they should be in the road. This is
No, I was just going to say also routes. I don't know if you're going to cover route planning, because that was, like I said, our first one in Shawlands, we went the sort of back route because we wanted to avoid a busy main road, but it actually backfired on us because it was a rat race central, people cutting corners and stuff. So actually it evolved, and we started taking up more space and going on a busier, wider road and just being there and taking up space rather than being back way. It felt safer to go on that.
Yeah, and typically when we're planning routes with parents, we'll try and minimise the number of junctions. So because that's just, you know, if you're on a carriageway and you've got a set formation, the number of times you have to disrupt that formation, you want to reduce that as much as possible. So that's something that we'll look at when we do route planning. The last point, second to last. This is something, I mean, if you've ridden with a group, you might understand this, but like the lead rider and the rear rider will be the furthest out on the carriageway, so there should be a direct line of sight between the rear rider and the front rider, and the whole group should be inside of them, and then the parents and then children. And if there is a oncoming vehicle that's travelling too fast, the rear rider will go out towards the oncoming car, which feels really counterintuitive the first few times you do it, because it's that thing of like traffic calming. If you reduce the amount of space that a driver has to aim at, they will naturally slow down, even involuntarily, because they don't want you to go over their bonnet. So that's a really interesting dynamic, which is very counterintuitive, especially for new riders on a bike bus, which is that you offer drivers, if the vehicle is moving too fast, you offer less space, not more space. Certainly as a bike bus leader, that's what we tend to encourage, and some of us enjoy it. We've also got a risk assessment template that we'll do with parents as well. It's just good practice. Anything else, Katherine?
No.
I hope this is useful and interesting. Talk about it forever. Cool. So again, this is something that we will just thinking about inclusivity, how we can be inclusive from a bike bus perspective. Super interesting Catherine's perspective on this. From a Bike Worcester perspective, we are really conscious of how amazing our communities are, but how brilliant everybody is, but also like we all have a uniform, everybody knows each other really well. We've been doing this stuff for years, and we have questions, not necessarily directly from parents, like, is it free? Can anybody join in? Like, how do I get involved in this thing? So like making sure that the community is as outwardly facing as possible has been a really important lesson for us over the years. The other thing that we don't struggle with so much at the moment, but we used to, was there's bike ownership for children and for adults is a real barrier, obviously, to entry. Fortunately, we've got our bike recycling schemes. We get donations and we can fix bikes and give them out to the community. So that isn't so much an issue anymore, but that is just something to be aware of. And also like working patterns, etc. Just means be too judgy about people who drive to school, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about this all afternoon, because my job now, you know, the area that we're living in Glasgow is very diverse, and I'm working with a lot of groups who just have no access to bikes or even think of joining the bike bus. And so I'm working now with Shawers. So we've opened a bike library, we're offering support which is funded, so it's free lessons. There's massive barriers in that our bike bus, we're insured through Cycling UK, and that means that, so we're a cycling group and we have the cycling group insurance, but it means that every adult on our bike bus can only have 3 children allocated to them, so they don't have to be my children, but I can have 3 that I need to be their guardian for the bike bus. That's just something that we decided to do, get that insurance, but it also means that kids can't just come on the bike bus. Loads of kids can't come without their parent, or we've been reluctant to do that, because I've got my own to deal with. My 5-year-old is now cycling on the bike bus and he's absolutely mental, so I want to like make sure that he's okay. I don't want to, but then actually we've started to now, we've had some families that it's taken also like the amount of time it takes for, especially I'm working with women and their kids to get them cycling. I have one family in particular, a mum and her 2 kids, who drive to school. It's taken a year of me working with them to do lessons, to feel confident, to get them bikes, to get to the point where they've now joined the bike bus. I just think it needs to be taken into consideration that it can't just be quick, oh yeah, join the bike bus. It's as easy as that. People have lots of different things going on, and yeah, we're quite focused at Shawlands at the moment to be really working out what now, to put a survey out at the school, to find out what people thought of the bike bus, what do they think we're doing, do they feel like it's for them, and we got some answers back that were really hard to hear, but actually it was really useful. So I would encourage to open up the conversation with the whole school community as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Why didn't people want to join in?
Sorry?
Why didn't people want
We
to
got
join in?
answers like, oh, that's not for me. You know, our bike bus at first, in the first year, was predominant. It was all white families on the bike bus. Our school is very diverse, and there's kids saying, oh, there's nobody on there that's like me. I don't, and it's not for me. This is the kind of things they were saying. So we kind of have worked really hard, trying to break down those barriers. And the bike library is one thing that's really, really helped that. That was funded through Cycling UK, who got us 10 bikes. So we've got 6 kids' bikes and 3 adult bikes and a cargo bike now, and it's going really well. And so there are people joining the bike bus and just sort of knowing that they can speak to us and ask us things, and putting flyers out, putting things in the school newsletter, and really just getting word out there that it's open to everyone if they want to join.
Yeah.
So are those bikes managed by the local school or by you or
By me, yeah, I wear too many hats. I'm tired. I am really tired, but it's so rewarding. Yeah, I mean the Cycling UK one, actually, we got 10 bikes they bought us, and they had a little 15% of the amount they gave us. They are paying me monthly to run the library, but that's only for a year. So next year I still want to run the library, but I won't be getting paid. You know, it's 4 hours a month that I can get paid, and that is fine, because it's literally just, I need to just look after the bikes, do swap over and stuff, but you know, it relies on me and my energy to do it.
How did you manage to, or what was the main method to get the volunteers? How did you work with the local volunteers who work with you to manage to find this? How did you find them all? What was the methodology?
They're my friends and neighbours. Yeah.
Oh, Catherine's coming again.
Yeah.
So volunteers is a really interesting question, because so I think this is true for Shawlands as well. But when I started the first bike bus in Worcester, there wasn't a group of volunteers. We didn't have anywhere near the scale that Bike Worcester has now. So when we first started, it was just the parents of the children and we had, like, in some cases we had both parents, so like myself and my wife, and two of the 4 families we had maybe 6 parents, so that was enough for the 4 children who were riding at the time. And that like adult to child ratio is really important, especially when you're first starting out, because like things are quite chaotic and there's quite a lot of things to get used to. We then, like, local cycling groups, like they are brilliant. I don't think, without the Bike Worcester volunteers, many of whom aren't actually attached to schools, we wouldn't be able to run. I don't know what it's like for Shawlers. Do you have anybody else?
No, we don't have anyone.
Yeah,
It's just us. It's just the
yeah.
parents, and it's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, like, people have things going on in their lives and jobs and different things, and it can be hard. There's been times where it's like, have we got enough adults today? I don't know.
Yeah, and so that's really interesting. So for us, we say to, because again, parent led, I will say to the parent lead and the parents in the WhatsApp group that we have, who's come in, you're responsible for your own children, you've got 2 or 3 Bike Worcester volunteers, and those extra 2 people do make a really big difference in terms of like being able to manage the group. And like Katherine was saying, like knowing that your only real responsibility is to make sure that you and your children are in formation, and that other things are going to be dealt with around. But for us, you know, Duncan's going to do a session in a bit about campaigning and recruitment of volunteers. Bike Bus has completely changed Bike Worcester because we, as a campaign group, meet, some of us see each other every day, like genuinely, like me and Al see each other like 3 times a week, well no, probably 4 or 5, which from a campaigning perspective is wild, right? From a local campaigning perspective, you might have a monthly meeting, if that, and you probably have a different set of people each month, right? The other thing that is, so that, like, that scale means that we just have the ability just to tap into, you know, we have a group of 60 volunteers in our Bike Bus WhatsApp group. Some of them are leaders, some of them are parent leads, but there's probably 20 who aren't attached to schools that just rock around and turn up when you send them a text message. So I don't know how we managed it.
I mean, talking about this makes me think we don't ask anyone to help. Maybe
Yeah,
we should.
I
Maybe
do.
we should. You know, it's just
Yeah.
the parents, and actually
Yeah.
maybe I know people through work and stuff like, you know,
Yeah.
maybe we need to.
Yeah.
When we need help, yeah.
Yeah, so I would, it's a good point. So we do ask. We do, you know, there's a local cycling club, and we ask grandparents, we ask local city councillors, and we ask people to come along. And now that we're at the scale that we are, we're a really fun group to be part of, and it is really self-fulfilling. So, you know, we meet after Bike Bus on a Friday for a coffee, and there's like sometimes 25 of us in our HQ. Fred's on the tithing, which we might go to tomorrow. So yeah, so like, and then it just means that if we ever have got any interest in the Bike Bus from anybody locally, we'll say just meet us on Friday in Fred's. We're going to be really able to talk to you about Bike Bus. Some safeguarding guidance here. I hopefully all relatively obvious. We ask that children stay with their parents or designated adults, and if you're a volunteer, so attached to Bike Worcester, then don't get
Existing
left
was more
alone
about
with child,
we tried
basically.
live streaming
That's
via YouTube via the
kind of
network,
rules.
and it was just refusing. I got full access.
The responsibility is with parents to make sure their children make it into school. So like Bike Bus arriving at school can be quite chaotic. We very much ensure that the parents have the responsibility to get them in, to get their children into school. We personally have always been really cautious about promoting routes. So from a safeguarding perspective, we will share the day of the route and the school and who's the lead contact and their contact details, but we don't share times, and we don't share the exact route details. That's a choice from our point of view. Like, I know others do it differently, but that's what we do. And then some stuff about social media, which is when I first wrote this, it was like, oh, we probably need to ask for social media permission, but now everyone does, so it's all fine. Questions? This is the road formation that we use. So yeah, so like saying parents, kids, and then this diagram's a bit old, but like the front and the rear riders would be slightly further towards the middle of the road.
This formation works really well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Once you're in the groove of it.
Yep.
And we call it human infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly. It's a losing fight.
It's terrifying, but and we just sort of always say, if you see any gaps. And what was interesting on the bike bus this morning, I was like, why are all the kids shouting bananas?
Oh yeah.
What's this about bananas? But it's like just a code word for there's a gap in the group.
Yeah.
Because we were always shouting, like, can we get any more adults up here?
Yeah. So
And
if
the
you
kids were
borrow,
all just going, bananas.
yeah. So
And then
that's
the adults knew to come and,
a Worcester thing.
yeah.
So if this, we use it for our critical mass mainly, but if the group gets separated, banana split. Everyone shouts bananas, and if you hear bananas, you're meant to shout bananas so that everybody hears the word, and then we kind of reform. So there you go, nice little bit of human nature.
I'm going to take that back.
That'd be. I mean, that's very exciting. And the other thing that's not on this diagram is that, which is something that we do more of these days, is we have 2 ride leaders. So 2 people at the front, one with the group, and one out as like an outrider towards the front. So if there is traffic that's coming, especially on one of our routes, the route you did this morning, Catherine, like if there is a high volume of traffic coming towards the group, we'll have a leader out the front, which just manages the traffic as it comes towards the bus. That is usually my job, and that's the one I like.
We had a time where the older kids started thinking the bike bus wasn't as cool anymore, and so we were sort of coming up with ideas to lure them in. We've got some of them to co-lead with us or do some of the roles, and it worked for a bit. It's not stuck, but that was interesting to have an older kid who's maybe 10 up the front with us leading.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. Our groups do tend to age out about 10. We don't generally notice.
Generally knows more.
Average age of a bike busser, etc. Yeah, so we tend to be younger. So this is again guidance that we have used in Worcester. I'm almost sure it's different from other stuff out there, but this is what we say to parents: is like, start short and simple, get out on your bikes as quickly as possible, and let's just do it. We tend to run a pilot ride with a family. So we'll say, where do you live? Where's your school? Let's just go and ride together. Sometimes on the pavements, if we don't know the area, or if it's just one of us. Normally we do it with a few. So they get their own private bike bus to school, which is a nice touch. The other thing which is really important is about, and this is a challenge for us at the moment, because when we first started, especially when in this picture, all of my eldest was 5, nearly 6, and so we designed the bike bus for the younger kids. So it was really slow, and it was really accessible for basically anybody. The same bike bus, same school, but he's now in year 3, and we have great adoption in year 1, year 2, and year 3. But the reception children are a bit too slow. So I think it's because the aircon is going to go on.
That's what it is, isn't it? It's getting too warm in here. Yeah.
Welcome to the hive. Katherine, anything to add?
No, I mean we've had ups and downs over the years with young ones, and it goes too slow, or big kids wanting to go faster. I guess it's different for every bike bus, and you will see Sam's videos of bike buses just pelting down a big avenue, and we're just can't compute that because we have to put ages and corners and potholes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the little ones, it's good to keep them forefront.
Yeah. So and again, so we'll tend to design a route that will cater even for a child on a balance bike if we can.
Just mentioning the age, do you have any sense of whether the older children that are starting to feel they're too big for the bike bus and they stop using it, whether any of them carry on cycling to school when they get to secondary school?
We have a couple that have left primary and gone into high school since they were on the bike bus, and their parents don't were we chatting earlier about, I was really interested about your idea of sort of bike buddy system for older kids, of getting a group of kids together and supporting them to kind of cycle to school together, but not in a big, uncool bike pack.
That was going to be my question actually, whether anyone has had experience of bike buses with secondary schools and whether anyone's been able to make it work.
I don't know of any, but through my job in Glasgow, we're working with teenage girls at a local high school, and so we've been doing lots of focus groups to find out from them how, you know, we've done a 10-week project, just finished it, where we've been taking them on rides, so not bike bus to school, but we've been taking them on lead rides and doing different things, so we're kind of trying a different route to find out.
What was the question? I'm sorry, that she asked. What was your question?
Whether anyone had tried or been successful in running a bike bus with older children, sort of teenage children, to their schools.
There was a project in Germany, in Kassel, in the city of Kassel, that had a bike bus within the university.